Again with the moon. You know what? That's it. If you people can't stop being stupid about it, well, I'm just gonna take it away. Piccolo?
Stop mocking me!
Damn it, it's still there. For God's sake, you blew up the wrong moon. Wait, what?
In this video, I want to look at something I stumbled across.
Was it a third moon? Because I gotta be honest, I'm getting really sick of these mother flipping moons on this monkey funking channel. Let's just get on with it, shall we?
Whilst on a documentary binge at the weekend.
Remember kids, documentaries can ruin lives. They are often boring and about things no one cares about, like history, places or people. Documentaries, not even once.
Remind me never to do this for relaxation purposes.
So, okay. Never do that for relaxation purposes. You're welcome. But also, learn to cut. I mean, I screw it up occasionally, but that just sounds awful. Although it does make for a weirdly hypnotic beat.
All I saw was countless possible MEs, and subsequently spent more time in Google scrambling for information to verify my suspicions.
Okay, so first off, by ME I assume you don't mean myalgic encephalomyelitis or chronic fatigue syndrome, because A, it's fairly rare, and B, it would be weird if you just so happen to see a bunch of documentaries containing it. So I gotta assume you mean the Mandela effect. This idea that the very real phenomenon of false memories, aka people remembering something differently from the way it actually happened, being not due to the human brain's propensity to pick and choose bits of information, reshuffle and outright omit things to create what we think of as pretty accurate memories, when it turns out that we as a species have pretty poor recollection of things that happened even quite recently, and especially of information that is not vital to our survival. For example, you probably have a reasonably accurate recollection of the time you rolled down the stairs because your stupid ass thought, for some goddamn baffling reason, that a tea towel would make for an excellent sledge. But not the colour of the tea towel or what you had for lunch that day. And no, the event described here is not something that 8-year-old me did because I'm an absolute moron. Nope, and you can't prove it either.
Firstly, let's recap on the MEs that we know are linked to the moon landings so far.
Oh god, this is going to be frigging idiotic, isn't it? Strap in folks, let's see where this tea towel sledge goes.
Houston, we have a problem. The famous quote from the Apollo 13 moon landing failure.
No, that's a famous quote from a movie.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
This one confuses me slightly because apparently it keeps flip-flopping, and I'm not sure what it is supposed to be now.
It's supposed to be this.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
In fact, it's always been this, and I'll say it slowly for the kids in the back, it has never changed. Now don't get me wrong, I can completely understand why people would think it's the far more often repeated movie quote. Most people will never listen to the actual audio. Why would they? They don't need to, and as I said, it's not actually that relevant to your survival, to know which way round it is. You do, however, jump the proverbial shark when you start telling me it's actually a magic memory from an alternative timeline/universe that just you and a select few specials, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, wink wink, you and a few special individuals have access to, and not say that you didn't know what it was. Because why the fleep would you?
I did just check it, and according to my info, the phrase Houston, we have a problem still does not officially exist in this reality. Well, it does, but only as an ME.
No, it's from a movie.
This was in WikiQuote. In real life, the quote was Houston, we've had a problem. The original phrase pronounced by Jack Swigert, Houston, we've had a problem here, and then repeated by Lovell, Houston, we've had a problem, was altered to a present tense in the film script.
Yeah, that's not surprising. It sounds a little bit better to the ear. And when you're making a movie, or any piece of art for that matter, often looking, hearing, or feeling better often trumps what really happened, because it makes the thing more enjoyable. It's called artistic license. It's generally a good thing. And what it isn't is the artist altering the reality that inspired it. That would be dumb.
And by the way, I distinctly remember, Houston, we have a problem. Not coming from Tom Hanks, but from the original recording.
Well, guess what? You're wrong. That's it. No, you don't have an extrasensory psychic link to the etherverse where you can pull memories and facts beyond the veil. You remembered it wrong. It's always the same with you wootards. But this might actually be worse than flatards, because at least a flatard tends to think that the science is just getting the facts wrong, or people are simply hiding the truth. You literally think that reality is incorrect. Like, wow, that is some Mentok levels of egotism.
Is the verdict guilty or not guilty? He asks, knowing full well the answer.
We find the defendant not guilty.
Not guilty? Nope, I'm never wrong. Guilty!
Many of us remember only the two manned missions, Apollo 11 and Apollo 13.
Now, how could that be? Since all humans have every single piece of information ever created stored and easily accessible in their heads at all time, and as those of us who don't remember only 2 landings but in fact more, I can only come to the conclusion that a space wizard came from space. I mean, where else would he come from? Milton Keynes. But yeah, the space wizard from space used his space powers to make a blank space in your memories. Did you see what I did there? I used the term space, meaning the dimensions of height, depth and width within which all things exist and move, and space meaning a continuous area or expanse which is free, available or unoccupied. Isn't that funny and clever? You may now line up and feed me grapes and fan me with bay leaves, for I am now a god to you people.
Apollo 11 being the most famous one, where Neil Armstrong and crew landed, and then Apollo 13 being the one that failed, which is the one they made the movie about with Tom Hanks.
Wait. Are you telling me that people tend to know about very famous and interesting things like firsts and disasters, but subsequent successful attempts or failures that do not result in catastrophe aren't as interesting to the general public, and thus are not only misremembered but simply not known about at all, and so people don't really think about or look into these things, might very well believe that the 2 famous things are the only things that happened? Oh wait, no, that's what I'm saying. You would be far more likely to believe in the pigging space wizard.
In a nutshell, Apollo 11 landed in July of 1969. 2 people walked on the moon.
Really? See, now I remember it as Apollo 10 landed and out hopped 2 astronauts and a 3rd secret ninja astronaut from the future, who then proceeded to fire a time-travelling bullet that then appeared in 1960 beside a grassy knoll and killed JFK 3 years from then. And if you tell me I'm wrong, being completely ludicrous, and the evidence points to that happening as basically zero, well, you just aren't on the same timeline as me, so every stupid thing I believe is true. Christ, this really is the perfect get out of explanation free card for every woo ever, isn't it?
Apollo 12 landed later that same year, in November 1969. 2 people also walked on the moon.
Impossible! It's not as famous, and I would not have known that from memory. Therefore, it never happened. Fact.
You know, in my reality, the main reason they gave for not returning was due to the, pardon the pun, astronomical costs of sending craft to the moon.
Question. In your reality, why did they skip to Apollo 13 without sending a 12? It's almost like you aren't the fountain of knowledge you seem to think you are. Right, blah, 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 blah. It's 6 successful moon landings in the Apollo program. Got that? Good, moving on.
On the wiki page of the list of missions to the moon, it says, quote, between 1968 and 1972, manned missions to the moon were conducted by the United States as part of the Apollo program. Apollo 8 was the first manned mission to enter orbit in December 1968.
First manned mission to enter orbit. Remember this, all of those words are important.
Now, if you hover over Apollo 8, the pop-up says it is the second manned mission.
The first manned mission to orbit the moon. The second manned mission. Because of course all missions are trying to achieve the exact same thing. Oh wait, no, that would be a stupid assumption to make based on the information you just gave us.
So which is it?
Both, you flog-guggling thunderbungle. My god, for someone with powers to see across time and space, you really have difficulty with the words, don't you? Reading comprehension of a dead sloth up in here, folks.
Even Neil deGrasse Tyson speaks only of one mission.
I don't care what Neil deGrasse Tyson speaks of. He is one fallible person. And let's just pretend what he says here. He is being very literal and stating every piece of information about the circumstance and not just glossing over things for the sake of brevity.
And I remember thinking distinctly, oh, first moon landing. Be the beginning of a whole new era. And I'm sure I was not alone with those thoughts. But because I was certain, as was everyone else, that it was the beginning of an era, I didn't jump for joy or do somersaults. I just said, it's the beginning. So there we were anticipating the moon landing. Then you watch the moon landing, and then you reflect on the moon landing, and as time moved on, it never kept happening. It was just there, now receding in the past.
Say that he means that that was the only one he thinks we've ever done. So what? He would be wrong. However, unfortunately for you, and pro tip here, if you're gonna pretend that someone said something they didn't, learn to cherry pick, because...
And had I known that our first steps on the moon would essentially be our last steps on the moon.
You left that in. And did you hear that word? A word that entirely changes what he previously said and demonstrates it for what it is, a simplified version of events. He said, essentially, meaning that there were more, but because there were so few and in such a short period of time, he basically counts them all as our first steps on the moon as a species. Debunking yourself with your own evidence. A cunning strategy.
I would have done somersaults. I would have said, oh my gosh, this is a unique moment in the history of our species. Never to happen again. Let me revel and celebrate and pop champagne corks.
Now this guy is an astrophysicist, okay? You'd think he would know his stuff.
I'm not going to speak on what he's qualified in or how smart he might be, but there's also a reason this man ends up on r/I am very smart a lot. He says many stupid things, because even smart people aren't all-powerful omniscient deities. But again, he wasn't even saying what you think he says, because your speechcraft is at about a 3.
So this takes me to the reason I made this video in the first place.
The lols, right? Please let it be the lols.
Not only is there confusion about how many times we landed on the moon.
No, there isn't. You're just a moron.
Apparently, we also planted retroreflectors during the Apollo 11, 14 and 15 missions.
Oh god, not the lasers again.
So that we can reflect laser beams from Earth to the moon and back again.
And apparently turn the moon into a freaking Death Star. Right, 6 getting sleepy, man. Let's skip to your point. Although kudos on not being a flat earther and making this pun.
They kind of fell flat on their faces though with this experiment because, well...
Although I really can't be sure you did that on purpose because, you know, you are bad at the wordings.
As many of us know, when you shine a light, the beam spreads as it propagates. A laser beam doesn't spread as much as, say, a torch, but it still spreads. Very expensive lasers are designed to minimize divergence, but they can't stop it.
Right, that's actually basically correct. Although I can't help but think when you say, as many of us know, that those who believe otherwise, what if they're correct, but Mandela effect?
Again, a huge laser beam shining onto the moon and being reflected back is not exactly something that can be done in pure secrecy.
Well, it wouldn't have to be. You already said that it spreads out. So at some point it's going to be so spread out that it's completely imperceptible to the human eye. I mean, go out and shine a torch in the dark at a lone wall. When you move backwards, before long you won't be able to see the light on the wall anymore because it's spread out too much. Same with the laser. And bear in mind that without a medium, the actual path of the laser is invisible to the human eye too. So you've got an invisible line with an imperceptible shine being reflected back to Earth that can only be detected with very sensitive equipment, and I'm supposed to believe this didn't happen because there wasn't a gigantic laser beam in the sky.
And something that would be all over the news, on front pages in colour, on the TV. I mean, it would be a spectacular sight.
Not really. Here's a demonstration of what you would see.
And according to this reality, colour photography was available at this time. So how come we missed it?
Because no one was watching, you dolt. Gotta admit, I came for the Mandela effect, but I stayed for the complete scientific illiteracy. But what did I expect from someone who, instead of admitting that they don't know something or remembered something incorrectly, say that it must have been a different reality? There's no way I could be wrong. I'm me, and I am the smart. Followed swiftly by drowning in a bowl of porridge. Are you tired of not being famous, handsome, and good at the sex? Well, you need brand new extra strength Sick brand merch. Sick brand merch is the only merchandise with artwork created by the famous, womansome, and almost as good at the sex, Mrs. Sick. And running the store is basically her job now, so if you don't buy something, you must hate her. And by extension, all women. You don't want to be a woman hater, do you? Sick brand merch. Because you're better than that.